Katreya, and this is Keisha.
Hi, I'm Roman, and this is Tixie.
We are a family. Yeah, I know we're cat bonkers, but we're not alone. Hashtag cat has 160 billion views on TikTok and 260 million posts on Instagram. It wasn't always like this. In the time of Queen Victoria, people didn't love or pet their cats. The job of the cat was to catch mice and rats. Then one man and one cat came along. Together they changed our attitudes. Louis Wain was born in Clerkenwell in 1860. His father was a textile trader and they were rather well off. Louis was a dreamy, sensitive boy. He didn't do too well at school and was forever playing truant. But he was gifted in art and later attended the West London School of Art. When Louis was 20 years old, his father died. Now the main breadwinner for his mother and 5 younger sisters, he took a teaching post at that same art school. In his spare time, he was forever sketching birds, wild animals and country scenes. He started selling them to newspapers. Soon he became a full-time freelance artist. Aged 23, he fell in love with Emily, his sister's governess. She was 10 years older than he and of a lower social class. Louis's mother did not approve of their marriage, so they broke away from the family, moved to a house in Hampstead. Their honeymoon period ended when Emily contracted breast cancer. It was then that a little black and white kitten walked into their life. As Emily took to her sickbed, she became very attached to this little creature, who they called Peter. Louis was always making sketches of him to amuse her. She said, "Why don't you show your sketches of Peter to Sir William Ingram?" He was the proprietor at the Illustrated London News. Louis said, "Who would want to buy a picture of a cat?" But Emily persisted, and she was thrilled when he sold his first sketches starring Peter in different moods. In 1886, Louis had a major breakthrough. He sold The Kitten's Christmas Party. This was an illustration which featured 150 cats in different postures. Readers loved these pictures of cats with their funny human expressions. But after the Christmas celebrations ended, Emily died. Louis managed his grief by burying his head in his work. His career soared. He was a very fast and prolific draftsman and could even draw with both hands at the same time. He produced hundreds of designs a year for magazines, newspapers, children's books, adverts and picture postcards. The Louis Wain Annual was also a huge success. His cats became even more like humans. They now walked on 2 legs, smoked cigars, played poker, drank brandy, threw snowballs, took up golf, motoring and swimming. Whatever they did, they were always really funny. Children and adults loved these cats' drawings and started to love cats more and more themselves. In the late 1800s, among aristocratic ladies, there was a growing interest in breeding cats, especially Siamese and Persians. The first cat show was held in London in 1871, and the following year, James Spratt, dog food maker, started to make cat biscuits. But it was Louis Wain's cute pictures that really made cats popular. As his career progressed, he reconciled with his family, and they all, including Peter, moved to Westgate-on-Sea in Kent. Louis would later say of Peter, "He was the most independent of all my cats. He won't stand interlopers in the cat family circle, hates kittens passionately. He kept all the other cats in order." Peter lived to the age of 15, dying in his master's arms. By this time, People regarded Louis Wain as a leading world cat authority. He judged cats at national cat shows, became the president of the National Cat Club, and railed against animal cruelty. Louis had some strange theories about cats and electricity. He described how Emily found it was so soothing when Peter snuggled up to her. The reason for this, he said, was that Peter is a small electrical battery, my wife a larger one. The larger one attracts electricity from the smaller one. He also said that the reason cats wash their ears is to complete an electrical circuit which generates heat, and it feels nice. Today, studies have indicated that the companionship of a cat can help your mental health and lead to greater longevity. But as for Louis Wain's scientific reasoning about electricity, well, I'm not so sure. Louis's neighbours in Westgate-on-Sea welcomed him as a celebrity, but a rather eccentric one. Once, attending a party, he was offered a cup of tea, or would he prefer a spirit? "I'd like some milk," he replied. His sense of humour failed him when they gave him his milk in a saucer. In 1907, aged 47, Louis travelled to the US to make his fortune. He was known already as the world's most famous cat artist and was soon busy drawing cats for Hearst Publishing Company. Over the next 2 years he earned some serious money, but then he lost most of it backing a failed invention of a near everlasting oil lamp. Upon hearing the news that his mother was ill, he returned to England only to learn that she had died while he was at sea. But now, home in Kent, he was broke and demoralised. With his mother dead, he alone was responsible for his sisters. One sister, Marie, who had been earlier diagnosed with schizophrenia, died. Then in 1914, just after England entered World War I, Louis fell off a bus in London's Bond Street. He spent a week unconscious in Bart's Hospital. Journalists reported that his first words on regaining consciousness were, "Is the cat all right?" even though no cat was involved. There are some who point to this event as the beginning of his madness. As the war progressed, he became very anxious that German bombs would fall on his Westgate home. So the family moved back to London and rented a house in Kilburn. Then came the event that did trigger off his mental collapse. His sister Caroline died in the flu pandemic, aged 53. Grief-stricken, Louis could only draw and paint. But he wasn't selling his pictures. Louis had little business sense and was hopeless at negotiating a decent deal. He'd sold thousands of drawings, but with each one he handed over the copyright for free. The market was flooded with his pictures, and publishers started to reprint his pictures with no fee due to him. Louis Wain descended into penury and madness. Living from hand to mouth, he would present tradesmen with cat sketches in exchange for goods. He became obsessed with rearranging the furniture in their Kilburn home. He accused his sisters of killing Caroline and plotting to kill him. He believed they were robbing him. When, in 1924, he tried to push a sister down the stairs, his family had him certified. Louis was taken to the paupers ward in Springfield Mental Hospital in Tooting. He continued to rant about his plotting sisters. He told them he'd been bothered by spirits day and night for 6 years. He claimed magical powers of healing due to electricity imprisoned within himself. They diagnosed dementia. Eventually, he settled in and started to draw and paint again, but to the public, he was now forgotten. A year later, a prison visitor called Dan Ryder turned up at the hospital. He described how he came upon a quiet little man drawing cats. "Good Lord, man, you draw like Louis Wain," he said. The man replied, "I am Louis Wain." Horrified, riders started a campaign to get Louis moved out of this pauper's hospital. The writer H.G. Wells was a prominent supporter who said generations had been brought up on Louis Wain's cats. He has made the cat his own. He invented a cat style, a cat society, a whole cat world. English cats that do not look and live like Louis Wain's cats are ashamed of themselves. The Prime Minister, Ramsay MacDonald, wrote, "Probably no artist has given pleasure to more young people than he has." This appeal raised so much money in both Britain and America that in 1925 he was moved to Bethlem Royal Hospital. They gave him a room of his own. His behaviour was still erratic. He would have periods of being lucid and rational, then spells of being difficult and unable to recognise people. They diagnosed schizophrenia. Louis continued to draw and paint cats, but these were now different, vivid, more abstract kaleidoscope cats. Then, in 1930, the hospital relocated, so Louis was moved to Knapsbury Hospital, near St Albans, outside London. Here he found a beautiful garden and many cats. He continued to paint until his death in July 1939. Age of 78, and he is buried in a family plot in St Mary's Catholic Cemetery in Kensal Green. Since Louis Wain's death, attitudes to art and madness have changed. In 1939, a psychiatrist called Walter Maclay found some of his pictures in a junk shop. He then arranged them in what he thought was chronological order. He developed a theory that the more schizophrenic Louis Wain was becoming, the more abstract and kaleidoscopic his paintings became. And even in the 1970s, an exhibition at London's V&A Museum presented the theory that Wain's art was very much a product of a disturbed mind. People don't always agree with that nowadays, and some, looking at some of Louis' psychedelic pictures, say it reminds them of being on an acid trip while perfectly sane. Louis Wain's condition has been re-diagnosed several times. Dementia, schizophrenia. Later theories suggested he was suffering from Asperger's syndrome or bipolar disorder, or even toxoplasmosis, a disease caught from handling cat faeces. Our attitude to cats has certainly changed since his time. In the UK today, 1 in 4 of households has a cat, and there are over 12 million pet cats in the country. In the US, estimates point to 1 in 3 households with a cat, and over 90 million cats in total. And they're certainly not all here to exterminate rats and mice. Our pets have become part of our family. They are petted, pampered, and regularly gifted treats and toys. It's quite normal for cats to be tucked up in the bedroom rather than be sent out at night to hunt. What do they say now? Dogs have masters, cats have staff. We talk to our cats, but you know you've lost it when your cat squawks at you and you nod sympathetically and say, "Yeah, I know." Much of this change of attitude is down to Louis Wain's popularising cat pictures. The public forgot about Louis Wain for a while after the war, yet now he has become popular again. His many fans and collectors include Nick Cave and Tracy Emin. In September 2021, a film was made about his life, The Electrical Life of Louis Wain, starring Benedict, Cumberbatch and Claire Foy. I do hope you enjoyed my Louis Wain film. If you did, Keisha says, please subscribe.
And Tixie says, give us a paws up.